Republicans demand Pelosi be fined for violating her own rules. On Friday, February 5th, Republican members of the U.S. House of Representatives asked security officials to fine Democratic Speaker Nancy Pelosi for allegedly bypassing a metal detector while entering Congress, which violated a rule she set herself. Loudermilk from Georgia and Bryan Steil from Wisconsin wrote in a letter to Acting House Sergeant at Arms Timothy Blodgett that yesterday, at approximately 9:59 a.m., multiple members observed the Speaker of the House entering the House chamber without completing a security screening. The letter also stated, "What was observed was a clear violation of House Resolution 73, and you are required by House rules to impose this fine. Please inform us once the fine has been assessed." Earlier this week, Pelosi proposed the rule, which was passed by a vote of 216 to 210 on the evening of February 2nd. The rule is said to target a small number of Republican lawmakers who have legally carried firearms in the Capitol. 2 days later, two Republican representatives, Louis Gohmert and Andrew Clyde, were fined $5,000 for violating Pelosi's metal detector rule. It's not the first time Pelosi has been caught breaking her own rules. In August 2020, she was caught on video going to a hair salon without wearing a mask during the San Francisco lockdown that restricted stores from opening. This incident has sparked a lot of discontent among the American public after its exposition by the media. UK bans CGTN, a moment of triumph. On February 4th, 2021, British officials revoked the license of Chinese television outlet CGTN, or China Global Television Network, to broadcast in the UK. After a year-long investigation by UK broadcasting regulator Ofcom, CGTN was found to be a news channel owned by the Chinese regime and directly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. This is a violation of UK broadcasting laws, which stipulate that license holders cannot be controlled by political bodies. Following careful consideration, taking account of all the facts and the broadcasters' and audience's rights to freedom of expression, we have decided it is appropriate to revoke the license for CGTN to broadcast in the UK, Ofcom said in a statement. We expect to conclude separate sanctions proceedings against CGTN for due impartiality and fairness and privacy breaches shortly, the statement continued. CGTN has been the subject of a series of Ofcom investigations and is facing further sanctions for violations of broadcasting rules. In May 2020, the regulator found the network in serious failure of compliance with UK impartiality laws during its coverage of pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. In July 2020, Ofcom found CGTN guilty of serious violations of British broadcasting regulations for airing a forced confession extracted from British citizen Peter Humphrey in 2013. Humphrey, who ran a corporate due diligence firm in China, was held by the CCP for allegedly buying and selling personal data, allegations he denies. He said Chinese state police drugged him, tied him to a metal chair in a small cage, and forced him to read from a pre-written statement to confess.
When they paraded me in front of the cameras for the first time in August of 2013, I had been held in conditions of great duress for virtually 2 months, almost 2 months. I was very drowsy, but I was still trying to resist saying anything that would amount to confessing to a crime that I had never committed. But, psychologically, what do when you're locked up as a caged animal in handcuffs, in a locked chair, in a locked cage, even though you've never been convicted of a crime?
Seeing the license revoked today is a moment of triumph, not only for me, but also for all the other victims of this type of abuse, Humphrey said. It's a slap on the face for the dictatorship in Beijing. According to a report by The Telegraph, The UK expelled 3 Chinese spies who were posing as journalists the day after CGTN's license was revoked. After the security service of the UK, MI5, uncovered the true identities of the 3 being intelligence officers for Beijing's Ministry of State Security, they were forced to return to China. Professor Dershowitz, President's speech covered by First Amendment. Harvard Law School Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz told Newsmax in an interview on February 6, 2021, that President Trump's speech is covered by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and that congressional lawmakers are violating the Constitution by impeaching Trump. The impeachment against President Trump is scheduled in the coming week. 2 days ago, on February 4th, Trump's lawyers rejected Democrats' attempt to get Trump to testify in the upcoming trial. In his remarks to Newsmax, Professor Dershowitz said that Trump made the right call in refusing to testify because the impeachment is just a political show.
When the president says, I'm not showing up because the procedure is unconstitutional, because the Senate has no jurisdiction, because I had a First Amendment right to make my speech. Look, it's pure showmanship. They sent the letter knowing he would reject it in order to say, basically, see, the president rejected it. This is a political show trial. This is political theater. And the reason I'm not participating in it is I'm neither an actor nor a politician. And everything about this case is showmanship. The president made the right decision. You don't walk into a perjury trap when you have people who you know are going to be hostile to you. The best arguments he can make, and his lawyers will make, are the constitutional ones. Namely, the Senate has no jurisdiction over a former president, and the speech was covered by the First Amendment.
Professor Dershowitz also said Congress is not above the law, and the impeachment is in breach of freedom of speech.
Congress has put itself above the law. They say the president is not above the law. They're right, but Congress is not above the law. And the law makes specific provisions for when a president can be impeached. And you can't impeach a president in violation of the First Amendment. The First Amendment says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Right. And an impeachment resolution is effectively a law. It is state action. And Congress is prohibited from violating the First Amendment. And I think they've placed themselves above the law in this impeachment proceeding and this trial. And I hope cooler heads will prevail.
In an op-ed for The Hill on February 4th, Dershowitz wrote that the brief filed by the House managers advocating the conviction and disqualification of citizen Donald Trump contains a frontal attack on freedom of speech for all Americans. Trump advisor Jason Miller echoed the sentiment that the reasoning featured in the impeachment brief of the House managers is a threat to freedom of speech on a much broader scale.
Not only will President Trump be on trial next week, the First Amendment will be on trial next week, because the Democrats aren't going to stop with attacking President Trump. They want to go after the free speech and the rights of all Americans, and I think that's a dangerous precedent.
Canada. Hong Kong pathway starting on February 8th. Recently, the Canadian government announced that Canada will begin accepting applications for the 3-year work permits from Hong Kong residents. The purpose of the program is to address the human rights issues arising from the implementation of the new national security law by the CCP. To be eligible to apply for the 3 years work permit, Hong Kong residents must have graduated with a Canadian post-secondary diploma or degree in the last 5 years, or hold an equivalent foreign credential. It is specifically stated that these terms also apply to Hong Kong residents who hold a BNO passport. In the announcement, Canadian Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Minister Marco E.L. Mendicino noted that, with flexible open work permits and a fast track to permanent residency, skilled Hong Kong residents will have a unique opportunity to develop their careers and help accelerate Canada's economic recovery. Since the CCP forced the national security law on Hong Kong last year, a series of measures have been taken to strengthen the regulation of Hong Kong people, including requiring Hong Kong residents holding foreign passports to choose one of the two, and not recognizing BNO passports as travel and identity documents. In the announcement, the Canadian government said, Canada continues to stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Hong Kong and is deeply concerned about the new national security law and the deteriorating human rights situation there.